let's talk. Let's actually try and remember what the hell this Nioh DLC is called, because I think it's Defiant. No, it's Oh God, Defiant Honor is the name of the DLC. This is me dying in it very early on. Like the first thing, I didn't notice there were scary arrows to being fired at you. Now I love Nioh. I love playing more of Nioh, and I particularly enjoyed the first piece of DLC. And I guess to spoil things, I really enjoyed the second piece of DLC too. And I think it does something. I think this game is better than Dark Souls 3, but even in general, in terms of Dark Souls, it does DLC better. There's something about the loot based nature of Nioh that makes it more accessible to being under leveled or just having weird strategies. There are more moves or items or weird shenanigans you can do with a game like Nioh than you can in a Dark Souls, at least to how I play. And a lot of the times in the DLC for Dark Souls, it gets kind of ridiculous where you're not sure, like, should I be doing this at the end of the game? I don't know what's happening over here. Oh, I gotta remember, like, a lot of the bosses, like, I've beaten every boss in every Dark Souls game except for a lot of the optional DLC bosses. Like Dark Souls 2 has a couple of bosses in the DLC that I never beat. And it's like I just don't enjoy fighting them. I don't like them. And this DLC, both of these DLCs do a nice job of being Nioh and just being a continuation. You literally have to finish the game to start the DLC. And you should be playing the first one and then playing the second one. I think they kind of even carry over the plot, from the first one to the second one. And that's great. The story's fine, whatever. It's all about the gameplay here, and they do a really good job, even though this DLC is only 2 new official levels, a couple of there's a new environment you go to for a side mission that I really enjoy. Both of those are really good. I think the second level in particular of the main mission of the DLC is one of the best levels in the game, in terms of level design and just enemy placement, all sorts of aspects. I think it's fantastic. And the second boss, I guess I'll say, was also a really, really fun fight. Super enjoyed having, it was one of those fights where you walk in and this guy can just kill you like that. And I had to realize, okay, if I get a talisman that prevents fire or whatever, boosts my damage resistance to fire, I can stand here a little longer. What if I do this attack? What if I wait him out? And then I eventually figured out damaging his ki all the way, which is his stamina, will prevent his summon from being summoned. So he has his fire summon and it's just making him all fiery. As soon as you damage all his ki down, it goes away and now he's much weaker, doesn't do as much damage, has no fireman, but he'll do it again. But you damage his ki all the way, you should be able to get a backstab or whatever you want to call it. I forget what they call it in Nioh. And I even found a really nice way to, if you go around, there's a staircase in the back, you can just fuck with his AI, basically, and make him fall off of it, hit him a couple times, run away, and totally trick all of his routines. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He just plays into your game, but you still have to be super smart. And I enjoy that. Now, would I have enjoyed that fight if it took me hours and hours and I kept dying? No. And the fact that I really could only see myself beating him in this trick way, not a great endorsement of the game to say that. But I'm also somehow, and this seems to be a consistent thing online, I tried to look it up, I'm 50, 60 levels under what the recommended is. Like, the recommended level for the final mission in this is 200. And I think I finished the DLC at 144. Which is crazy. Like, the fact that you can level up and get 20 HP, roughly, per level up, even if you're getting 10 HP for level up, that's 600 more HP that I potentially am missing out on. And that's you guys can see my numbers here. I have 3,300. So to get 600 more is a big increase. So I feel like I am at somewhat of a disadvantage just because of that. Not necessarily because of damage or weapons or anything. I think that's fine. The loot's fine. I love the loot they do here. I do think it's still ridiculous and obnoxious. These enemies blow up in piñatas of loot, which is cool, but it's overboard. It's just a little too much to make it interesting. Like, it should be, ooh, what's this new thing? Instead of, oh, okay, let's pick up these 17 piles of trash, and later I'll look and see what I got. That's what it turns into. Also, haven't even mentioned it yet, but the tonfa, the little sticky sticks, that's what they're called, are great, and that's my new preferred weapon. I was dual katanas, and now my preferred weapon is the tonfa. I think they're super fast, they're super close range. You gotta know what you're doing, but they very much play into how I play the game, which is wearing down the enemy's ki. And it's a very important thing on bosses, on larger enemies, and it's super fun to do. It's super fun to have these fast weapons. You're doing like flips, spinny things with them. Great moveset. Really enjoyed the tonfa way more than I enjoyed a lot of the weapons in the game. Really, I guess, you know, I love the katana and the dual katanas, but besides that, I like the hammer fine. You know what I mean? Like, this was another weapon on par with anything else I really enjoyed. And the combat is still the strongest point of Nioh. It's so much fun to battle these weird enemies between humans and Oni and these other sorts of demons and yokai or whatever the hell. Battling them is consistently fun. I think some of the enemies, I think they added this enemy in with the first DLC. Some of the Oni that you fight, they're these giant, kind of lengthy, skinny dudes with various weapons. Some of them I really don't enjoy fighting. I think they're pretty damn obnoxious, and this just comes down to how much damage they do. And maybe that's, again, to being so underleveled, but you fight them and it's, oh, you got hit twice, you're dead. And I understand that, and I get that, and I respect that. You know, I've played a lot of Nioh, I understand. But when no other enemy does that, just those guys, it's a little weird. That's my one thing with it, is certain enemies here don't quite add up to what I'd expect from the enemies that were right next to them. There's also, in the second level, there's a bunch of these kind of soldiers that are not like mini bosses, I guess we'll say, and they're kind of just peppered throughout. You can kind of tell they're there, though. They're usually larger, more heavily armored. They don't look like grunts. That's a pretty good indication. And fighting them is another thing that just feels like, man, I'm not doing any damage here. I just gotta chip away and chip away and chip away. And that's fun and that's fine, but it's a little weird when I feel like some of those guys had just as much HP as the actual boss at the end of the level. Just a little goofy, or those guys would hit me a couple times and I could weather it, right? But some random yokai around the corner, who granted had his own little special summon spot, but still can kill me in 2 hits. Like, I get it, it just doesn't seem consistent. That being said, I guess the other new things in this, there's a couple new enemies. They're mostly forgettable. There's a little bomb crawly guy, like this guy with a bomb barrel on his back, and there's what is it, some weird jelly ooze guy. Nothing really to write home about for the new enemies here. I think it's cool to see this level in particular, and I guess the second level as well, have a nice mix of these demon enemies and humans that you're fighting. I really enjoy that, because they are 2 distinct experiences, because one of them is so much about wearing down the ki to take advantage of the enemy, and the other one is also about that, but you do it in a different way, and it leads to different opportunities. And these enemies, like here, also provide you opportunities to change stances, which is just as important as it is in the main game, which is to say fairly important, but not overwhelmingly important. I think overall, though, this DLC, I think I played it for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5, 6 hours. did most of it. I think I maybe have an hour and a half left of stuff I'm going to do. I won't complete everything. There's a bunch of other bosses you can fight, and I think a lot of these optional bosses, in the same way I was talking about Dark Souls, these optional bosses they put at the end of these DLC are just crazy. And I'm not going to sit there and grind out something. I've never grinded. I've never ground in Nioh, and I'm not going to start now. 50, 60 hours later, I'm not going to start now. So I'm not going to grind to beat your silly boss. I'm not going to try and do crazy tactics to beat just this one boss. That's a new enemy. But I will attempt the fight, look at it, check it out. It's again 10 missions like the other one was, 2 of which are the main mission, and a bunch of the other ones are side. There's a couple side missions on the levels themselves, and those are what you expect. And then there's just the boss, kind of not boss rush, but just like go into the room and fight a boss here. There's those, and the one silly you've played with the Tonfa enough mission as well. So now you get to unlock its ultimate move. I think overall it's really good though. I mean, this is a $10 DLC, the same with the other one. I bought the season pass. I think it's 100% worth it in a world where I think the last season pass I bought was maybe the Dark Souls 3. And I think Dark Souls 3, I mean, it's the easiest comparison. We had that DLC earlier this year. It's barely a blip in my brain after Nioh and these 2 pieces of DLC. Like, this is the superior experience to me overall in terms of gameplay. Maybe the story. The story's definitely better and more interesting to me in Dark Souls, but on a gameplay level, so many wrinkles have been added between the loot and the stances and all these other things like the ninjutsu and the skill tree. All these wrinkles they've added into Nioh make it into something so different and still so much the same in the feeling you get from playing it, of overcoming these obstacles. And that's what it has, and that's great. This is more for what hardcore people like me want from this game, and there you go. That's what it is. Not going to change anyone's mind. Not going to win any awards. You might get lit on fire with an arrow, but that's about all you're going to get. I think I die right here, actually. Look at these. I love the arrows. I'm super in love with these arrows. Such a nice idea of having this battlefield level. Really good. I think the levels overall were better than the ones in the first piece of DLC. Even though I like those as well. The first piece of DLC had more new enemies, I feel like. It had more new stuff to kind of learn about. And I think it had more bosses too. It had 3 new bosses. This, as far as I can tell, only has the 2. Which is fine. I'm glad it didn't end with fighting Maria again, because that would have just been weird. But maybe it does. Maybe I play this other level and I unlock a whole nother thing. That's fine. That is 100% fine. Anyway, I've tried to end this like 7 times, and I keep thinking of one more thing. Ooh, arrows. Ooh, arrows, Nioh DLC 2. Good title. Great job. Good work. Solid. Ooh, fire.